Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Now this has got PG-13 rating, right?
Yep.
Fantasy violence and action. It's got some language in it. Loosely based on an old role-playing game that I'd never played, and it's pretty controversial. I don't think you played it either.
Yeah,
right?
back in the 70s, 80s, just a little bit, but never anything seriously. But yeah, that was pretty controversial within Christian circles because some of the well, there's role-playing, so some people would really get involved in it and kind of lose themselves in it, but that was one of the real dangers, I guess. But you could say that about anything.
Oh, sure.
But then one of the other things is there were some of the monsters were demons, and so people would be concerned about that, like, well, why is my kid playing these games that have demons mentioned?
And it's still around today, but it was a lot more popular probably years ago.
Will, your action! I don't know. Fireball! I'd have to roll a 13 or higher. Too risky.
It's still fairly popular in some circles today, yeah.
Okay.
But it just isn't as controversial, I guess.
But no one in the film actually plays the game, as far as we know.
No, you never see that it is a game. It's just based on that kind of fantasy
There are elements
realm
from the game that make the movie.
Yes, and so it's almost as if you were seeing this movie is almost like you're on one of the quests that people can make for the game, and you're seeing it through the eyes of those characters. So it's not actually the game itself.
So the movie it's a very lighthearted movie, right? It's a lighthearted film. It's got a nice blend of action, adventure, comedy. It kind of reminds us of Guardians of the Galaxy, but set in medieval times.
Yeah,
so medieval Guardians of the Galaxy type deal.
Very much like that, where you have a bunch of odd characters who come together.
Quirky.
Yeah, and very funny, but they all work together to accomplish this greater purpose, and they're
down
stronger
and out.
together.
They seem kind of like losers in the movie in a sense because they've all been broken in particular ways.
They're all outcasts.
Right, they're all outcasts and loners, but they come together and make a really great team and fun story and fun times, lots of laughs as you watch it.
And the nice thing is, like in Guardians of the Galaxy, they all have their own distinct role and strengths and weaknesses, and they're consistent in their characters.
And so the subtitle is fairly accurate. It's Honor Among Thieves. And so this is very much kind of like a Robin Hood story. They kind of band together to steal from the rich and to give to the poor, which would be themselves. Right. It's kind of how that works.
But sort of like, remember we did, what was it, AntiHero stuff last year. We talked about that a little bit. And you think of somebody like Jack Sparrow that you're pulling for, but he's really not a good guy.
Yes.
And so in this sense, you have people who are thieves. They're not really great guys, but they're in some sense better than what's going on because the evil that's coming upon this world, and what they're able to do to try to fight it off is good. So.
And even though their characters are a little morally ambiguous, the movie itself does a pretty good job of representing good versus evil.
Yes.
And you do see that fairly clearly, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and we'll see that in this cast of characters. So let's meet the players.
Yeah, who are the characters?
The main character is Edgin.
All right.
And he's a Harper, which is like a spy.
Does he play the harp?
Well, he plays a lute or something, some sort of. Well, what is that you got there? Yeah, whatever he's playing, some stringed instrument, and but he's also a bard by day, a harper by night. So Harper was like a spy, some sort of secret organization committed to doing good in the world. But then he becomes a thief after that. Holga is his best friend. She's a barbarian, so she's the tough one of the group.
She's a tough woman.
You know what? I think maybe we'll talk about this a little more. But her fight scenes are actually really
They're really well
good.
choreographed. And
I mean, I don't know if it's sound effects or just her acting in it. It looks like there's a lot of force behind the stuff she's doing. Whereas a lot of times when you have females in the fight scenes, you know, like the Marvel ones, she'll jump up and like climb on top of the guy's head and flip him around with her like every single scene.
Or dare I utter Charlie's Angels?
Welcome to Tilt Shift. I'm Tim. No, just kidding. You got Simon, who's a low-level sorcerer. He lacked confidence, and so he can't do some of the magic that he should be able to do. So it creates a lot of comedy. Doric is a druid. She's able to shapeshift, and she's part of a tiefling.
Which is pretty cool in the movie.
Yeah.
The stuff she can become.
So she's a tiefling, so she's part human, part some other animal. Some sort of deer-like.
And there's all sorts of kind of weird creatures in the movie.
Yeah, it's fantasy.
That whole genre.
Yeah. And then Zank is a paladin who is he is always on the straight and narrow. Like he does not veer.
He's kind of like Drax a little bit.
A little bit, but
in personality.
Like he's hyper literal in how he understands things.
Yeah.
But he's a incredibly good fighter.
And he's like perfect at everything. Like, he's really good at everything. So.
And then you got the villains.
Not like Drax.
So villains are Forge, who's a con man, and played by Hugh Grant, and he does it really, really well.
Really does. A little too well. I'm a little worried about him.
Right. And Sophina is a red wizard, and Brian, you've made the comment that she is like the devil, right?
Such a beautiful name for such an evil character, right? Yeah, it's pretty menacing.
Yeah, she's a little spooky. So if you're gonna watch this with young kids, just beware. There's a few things that are she's a bit spooky. So the scenes with the red wizards are rather spooky.
Pretty intense. Yeah.
All right. So Brian, do you think this film, because of those characters, so you got the two female characters, Holga and Doric, can both be incredibly strong. Doric is little, but when she transforms into the owlbear, she's really, really strong.
Right.
And whereas the two men, Simon and Edgin, are pretty weak, and they don't. So is this movie just emasculating men again, like we see in so many other Hollywood films?
Not totally. I do have some concerns with it. You know, you look at Holga's character and Doric's as well. They do have strong personalities, and they tend to lead in a lot of ways, and they tend to take those leadership roles in some ways. Now, of course, the Harper, the ex-Harper.
Edgin's the leader.
He's the leader. He's the planner.
Yep.
Right. But the two ladies are very confident in their skills. And the two guys are very not confident. You know, and so it seems to be kind of wavering on that. And then for Holga in particular, her character is so strong. And I know she's a barbarian in the movie. That's a whole tribe. They're raised to be strong. And so in the movie, it does kind of fit. So it's not just giving her strength for no reason, which is really a problem with a lot of woke films. The girls are just strong for no reason at all. So in the movie, it makes sense. But even her personality, in some cases, seems to make her more like a man and presents the men more like a female.
Well, even so, her husband has left her,
right?
Because she left her tribe to be with him, and then she could never get over leaving her tribe. So he's frustrated with that, and so he leaves her. But he's like half size.
What are they? Are they hobbits? I mean, what are? I
don't know. I don't know if they ever say what they are, but they're very little.
Which is kind of funny. I know they're just trying to be funny.
And actually, her husband's played by Bradley Cooper, who is the voice for Rocket. So we had him
about the same size.
Yeah, he's about the same size. Yeah.
And so he's a small guy, but you know, there's one scene in particular that really kind of drives this home for me, where I think it's a problem, where her ex-husband he's having a breakup conversation with her again, and he says everything the female would say. All his characteristics are very feminine, and then she's very much the man. And it's not
even
that
his new girlfriend comes in, and she's very masculine.
A man as well. And it's not that people can't have those variations in the personality, but it's so stark there. And it just seems to want to blur the roles between male and female. And that's what our culture wants to do. And so I'm very much just, when I watch that part and those sorts of ideas, be aware of those, because I think they're in there. And maybe on purpose, maybe not. I'll lean to probably on purpose, but it's also for humor. I get that too, but the idea is still there, and it still plants a seed, and that to me can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I think that's good to bring it up that way, because it's not like Holga is only masculine. We do see a scene where she's
not.
She has kind of played the role of mom to Kira and helps raise her in that, and so she has those motherly instincts as well.
She does.
So it's not just that, but I think it's certainly worth bringing up those concerns.
Keep it in mind, definitely.
And like I mentioned before, Zank is this male character, this paladin, he's the best fighter in the group by far. Even though he's not with them all the time, he's only with them for a little bit of the quest.
That one fight scene where he fights the half-dead people.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
All right, so our first clip we're going to look at is early in the film, we get a lot of Edgin's backstory. It's exposition, but the way that they do it is clever. He's before the parole board because he's been caught stealing, and so he's before the parole board, and he starts to explain his backstory, but he's waiting for this one character to arrive who's going to help him escape, or that at least is favorable to him, and the guy's late, so he keeps stalling for time.
I love the way they set it up and how he did it,
It's very humorous, but here's our first clip. We get to see a little bit of this.
You may be surprised to learn I wasn't always a thief. Years ago, I became a member of the Harper's faction, a network of spies who swear an oath to fight tyranny, defend the oppressed, and to ask nothing in return.
That's what Harper is.
There you go. Good definition.
Even though she knew the risks. By day, I'd eavesdrop on mercenaries, stop bandits in their tracks, and even bring Thayan red wizards to justice. By night, I'd come home to my loving wife and daughter Kira. To be honest, there were times when I began to question the asking nothing in return part of my oath. But my wife would always say, you don't have to give us everything, you only have to give us you. So what's latest on Jonathan?
We just need you.
Yeah, you don't have to give us everything, we just need you. And I think that's an important line. A lot of times we look at the things of this world and we look at what other people have and we think, well, why can't we have that? And it's understandable if you're eating tomato soup or whatever that was. I'd want more too because I don't like tomatoes. But.
Tomato.
But I look at that clip though, even as they set it up and he's telling the story. Look at his house. He had a nice home. Mm-hmm. He had a beautiful wife. They have a beautiful child. Mm-hmm. They have stuff in their house. There's furniture. They had a lot, really, compared to a lot of the world.
People throughout history, yeah. Especially at this is more like a medieval thing.
Yeah.
Be living large in medieval times.
And as well, if you watch the movie or as we go through some of this, it actually turns out to be his desire for more that leads to so much death.
There was even a little bit of foreshadowing in that scene. They showed him look at the gold that was there.
Which is key for later.
Yeah. So he actually does end up taking it, which leads to so many other things. So the Bible tells us in Philippians 4, verses 11 through 13, Paul is speaking about being content. He says, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I've learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Now, a lot of times people pull that last verse out of context and make it like I can do anything through Christ.
I'm sure you've seen that coffee mug that says, I can do all things with a verse taken out of context.
Exactly.
It's on the mug. And it's
Right.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's not like I can't sprout wings and fly. I mean, there are lots of things I can't do.
Right.
And
that's what Paul's
I can't
not
like
trying to say
the
that.
Barbie movie. I just
The first intelligent thing you've said since we got here.
Well, that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
Nobody can.
or The Last Jedi.